My hair is such a mess. So I gave up on fast fashion maybe about 5 years ago, and in some ways it has been really great in terms of trying to do my part to prevent the massive textile waste that we're facing as a planet, but also to just kind of keep feeding my magpie tendencies of going towards just interesting pieces that you're not likely to be able to find in your run-of-the-mill fast fashion store. But also paradoxically, I just ended up realizing that especially when I was working from home, I ended up just more or less just wearing the same thing over and over and over again. So I thought that I would experiment, do a style video on a history channel. I'm terrified. And try and see if I could link both my yearning to try and reconnect with pieces of clothing I haven't worn in a while with a specific aesthetic that is inspired by my research hyperfixations. And I landed on Nightcore, an aesthetic inspired by medieval knights. But first of all, we had to determine some ground rules for this challenge. First off, no costumey element. Given that I do historical European martial arts, fencing, and I also am, you know, a massive nerd, it would be kind of easy for me to integrate elements of style for Nightcore that mean that you wouldn't be out of place at, for example, you know, a Ren fair. But I also want styles that I can wear around the house, go to the office, go out. So the challenge I'm going to be giving myself is that this will be a casual Nightcore challenge, which honestly, in the case of this wardrobe, ended up centering quite a lot around a suit of armor. And already having a look at how that's constructed, we could just see how we could translate the beautiful but not really wearable in real life suit of armor to something that is a bit more everyday lifey. So a few things already emerged. First off, layers. All the layers. With all the different moving parts of armor, there's a lot of different shapes to work with, and layering can help convey that. If not with actual bits of metal, fabric, and chainmail, then, you know, just fabric. Second, this is an obvious one, but metallic and shiny textures as well as a sensible amount of patterning. Finally, colour. I have a personal vendetta against medieval inspired pieces of media that represent the medieval period as a completely kind of literally dark, grey, washed out period of history instead of an incredibly vibrant time in terms of fashion, in terms of design, in terms of architecture, in terms of visual culture. So we're going to think about which colours could loosely fit within a medieval setting, but also thematically with different legends and themes that we ascribe to knights. So let's just see where this takes us, and hopefully in terms of trying out new looks, this will cause a positive chainmail reaction. Nightcore as an aesthetic is based on a romanticized idea of knights and related to ideas of chivalric romance and ideals. So I worked backwards from one of my favorite items of clothing, which is this tapestry-like waistcoat that I thrifted maybe last year. Because it reminds me a lot of Millefleur artwork from the medieval period, usually characterized by this abundance of fauna and flora that can perpetuate these ideals. I'm thinking about the unicorn in captivity at the Met and the lady with the unicorn series of tapestries at Musée Cluny, but also of medieval and early Renaissance artwork that represented warrior women in armor, such as the Amazon Queen Pentecost. So we're layering this above a turtleneck and a black sweater vest that can help shape the idea of chainmail or under armor, and also create a negative space that can create a parallel with the breastplate. And above that, we're putting a more tailored, structured jacket that can bring out some of the armor structuring in pauldrons, and a red scarf, some heroic cape-like flair, with some heroic longsword earrings, of course. I mean, well, just one because I could not figure out where the other one went. Oh, and also all these outfits I did the sword test. Now, I know these are for everyday life, but in terms of the Nightcore looks, does it look good with a sword? And often the answer has been yes. So this look, it really asks the question, how do you account for something a bit more practical but also sticking to the theme? Well, I then thought about the concept of knight errant, a key figure of medieval chivalric literature, errant meaning wandering, who wanders around in search of adventure. But I was also thinking about referencing types of combat armor other than metal, such as leather armor. It does prop up an imagery from the period. Catch is that it would have been unlikely knights would have worn it, as they could afford the higher end steel plate armor, so why would they go with something that was the budget version of that?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
But we're constructing a narrative in this outfit of a humble knight, or a knight who has fallen on hard times and needs budget armor, okay? Don't judge him, them, her. Or like a peasant turned knight narrative. Again, under a turtleneck, I found this fun kind of hand-me-down, just straight shirts, and then a brown sweater vest. If you do not like sweater vest, let me just tell you right now, this is not the video for you.
Behold the soothing power of this enchanted sweater vest.
Then, to top it all off, my favourite cardigan, which is also actually convenient as the knight errant is also called a white knight, a term which has evolved in recent years to mean man flying to a woman's help unsolicited or unconditionally defending someone regardless of whether or not it is deserved. I maybe did cheat a little bit, so just like kept the shirt and sweater vest kind of layered on top of these really comfortable corduroy trousers, but then I decided to just like maybe give a little bit of something extra by just adding this belt and this kind of Ren Fair-ish pouch thing, which I have worn before at different sword events and is generally quite a useful thing to hold sun cream, hand sanitizer, a fan, all kinds of stuff. So, you know, it's maybe a little bit daring to wear at the office if you're like feeling a bit shy, but I also thought it was just quite fun, and we should bring back belts, pouches for all your different accessories and potions and unguents. So this look is kind of cheating because my style is increasingly a mix of either what if I was a lesbian vampire or what if I was a lesbian scholar of vampires.
20th century.
I know what you're after.
So we end up with a kind of look referencing the idea of the Black Knight. So in literature, this knight figure trope typically masks their identity and that of their patron with a lack of heraldry. This also leads to the Black Knight being often cast in a role of a masked villain. So the implication here that if you paint over the heraldry of one that you serve, you can commit misdeeds in their name. But it's important to note that the original Black Knight trope is not inherently villainous, and there's scope to actually see the Black Knights as a goth, misunderstood, badass, ambiguous anti-hero. Although used for literary figures, the title could also be attributed to very real and very much identified historical people, like Edward of Woodstock, the Black Prince, or Zoetha, the Black of Garbo, whose nickname stems from his black hair alongside his black suit of armor, which is kept in a Polish monastery. The armor, not the hair. But to be honest, the armor that inspired me the most was the armor garniture of George Clifford, with a sleek black and gold look and geometric motifs. So for this look, I wanted to challenge myself to piece together a look that was more design adjacent and not thematically adjacent. As you notice that, I enjoy my thematic nightly Folios. So I went all out on an exaggerated concept of blued armor. That is to say, armor is given a blue finish by firing, which I've done a whole video on, by the way, looking at inspiration between Lil Nas X's golden armor look at the 2021 Met Gala. And having seen some remaining armors of those suits of armor, I mean, those armor pieces are more so a bluish black. I have a kind of velvety dark blue shirt, and I have, this blue scarf in my wardrobe, which is kind of shimmery. And then I also decided to add a denim jacket in addition to the denim jeans. I kind of also wanted to reference not only the Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake iconic look, but also the notion that many lesbian gangs in the 80s and 70s wore denim, had these denim jackets. I also really like the idea of denim jackets and their multiple pins as heraldry. So I'll put up an example of one of my denim jackets, that denim jacket actually, that I've presented in an exhibition. I decided to go for something that was in my ideas of things to do, which was a bit of Arte Rihanna. I want to do an outfit referencing the Green Knight, even though I still haven't seen the Dev Patel film because I am terrible and I procrastinate a lot with seeing films and often just see them several years later after everybody else, saying books. But I wanted to make sure I was doing something fun and imaginative with an outfit that wasn't just wearing a bunch of green, which I'm not even entirely sure I achieved, to be honest. So again, with one of my favorite shirts, which has these medieval heraldry-like symbols, and we're pairing it with lush green sweater vest, and then like having this shiny metallic jacket as well. And yeah, I mean, I like at some point I was just thinking, is this just too much green? So I decided to bring our special gambit, the which you don't really see here at all, so it's not really that much of a reveal. The metallic silver sweater vest to see if I can zhuzh it up a bit. I thought, you know, I've been good, I haven't used it throughout, so we might as well see if it works here, and it kind of does. The cut for it is a bit strange, but covered with the vest, it looks quite nice. Okay, so this was kind of interesting because I just then realized, you know, we've been doing a lot of trouser, jacket, sweater vest, shirts, combos, turtleneck, you know, you name it. Very butch menswear-y, which is fine because that's my style, to be honest. I do wear dresses sometimes, once in a blue moon, and I have tried to challenge myself to wear more of them. So this was kind of just my challenge to do that. So the look that I'm calling Lady's Favor. Also kind of referencing my comic, where there's obviously a lot around knights and ladies giving out favors, being major plot points. So I decided to go with this kind of long grey kind of pinafore-like dress I thrifted recently, which I really like because it kind of corresponds to the type of very practical dress that I would end up wearing. It doesn't feel too fussy. I'm thinking, you know, how I could actually use accessories to elevate it a bit, to give it kind of some senses of Nightcore-ness, kind of paired it with a turtleneck. Again, the turtlenecks. And we're also just like then adding my favorite belt of all time, which is by Thistle. I'm going to put their Instagram up on the screen. Beautiful kind of imitation of a Victorian hand belt. It's my favorite thing ever. Just to kind of give it a bit of a structured waist, then pairing that with kind of little hand dagger earrings, and then just kind of tucking in a little kind of foulard. How do you say foulard in English? A little scarf, a little silk scarf that could be easily, you know, just romantically flung at a knight during a joust, you know, given as a favor, and just kind of tucking it there to give it a bit of a kind of flow and something a bit interesting. So that was really, I think, my take on the idea of doing a Nightcore look. That was more from the perspective of the lady giving a favor to the knight or taking part in a joust, a tournament. A lot of historical records are a bit flimsy on the amount of women who potentially would have been able to participate in a joust as, you know, women at arms. There are a few cases, but more often than not, obviously, they're either relegated to legend speculation or they're just extremely rare. We have the case of Agnes Hottot, who basically disguised herself kind of a Knight's Tale style to take part in a tournament when her father was unable to do so, but obviously people did not know that she was a woman while she was competing. And that story is also semi-legendary. And obviously, you know, just from a medieval European perspective, knight, just much like the concept of, say, a samurai, the idea of a woman knight was inherently paradoxical because women simply weren't allowed to be knights. It doesn't mean by any stretch of the imagination that women could not fight and did not fight during the medieval period, because they did, and we do have documentation of this. But it did mean that when it comes to official tourneys, you didn't necessarily have evidence of this yet. Trying to see if I can find evidence. But again, you know, you can't let your desire to have historical women knights obscure your judgment. Sounds very Star Warsy. There's quite lots of interesting literary cultural things around the idea of women's tournaments. So I'm currently obsessed with this medieval poem called The Tournament of the Ladies, which is all about imagining nobility ladies who just low-key start jousting amongst themselves while their husbands are away at war, and where the tone, you know, could be interpreted as either a massive parody or something quite earnest, actually. It kind of reads like a kind of fantasy football, but for medieval jousting ladies, which is kind of interesting. So I wanted to reference a bit of that. But also just outside of that, I think we shouldn't forget the fact that spectators at the tournament, you know, in the context of knighthood, played an important role. And similarly in chivalric romance, the lady or lord, the person giving the quest or, you know, had the favor, played quite an important role. They were kind of a motivating force, and in the case of ladies, they were far from this kind of passive image that you can be kind of tempted to lean into when it comes to these depictions. So that was my kind of spin on that. Oh, something I forgot to mention as well, linked to the kind of dress, lady's favor look, is I also wanted to reference the kind of armored dresses in brackets dresses / skirts that you often see in terms of specific armor. I'm thinking about the Henry VIII one at the Royal Armouries specifically. You know, just got my faves, heavy rotation in my little ADHD brain of that one. And then I'm also thinking about the fashion inspirations that have kind of led artists to create their own fictional versions of armor dresses that sometimes do get mistaken for actual armor and then get mistaken for things women would have worn, which is not the case. Women, if they wore armor, would have worn the same thing as men. No boob plates allowed here. And there you have it. What were my conclusions after this frantic amount of just wardrobe Nightcore look creation? Firstly, that I have a lot of sweater vests. I think something that I did notice, and hopefully, you know, when I'm not just doing a really resting, you know, millennial trying to make their camera work face in the B-roll, you can see that I'm actually I'm enjoying myself. This was really fun, and I think that I kind of, especially in the kind of moment after lockdown, when, you know, you're not just playing dress up in your room by yourself, you're actually going out again, and you also have to contend with running late, with, you know, you're working from home and you just want to throw, you know, something really casual on. You're, you know, balancing lots of different things. It can be really easy to fall into a routine with what you end up wearing, and most of the time, you know, I don't always feel as though I give myself the time to put together looks in advance and think about what I want them to convey, you know, and, you know, how they correspond to something I'm going to, how to kind of essentially think a bit more closely about the narrative that I want to give with my clothing, and, you know, just really enjoy that. It was actually a bit of a confidence boost to do all of this and see everything that I could achieve with what was already in my wardrobe. Something that has been getting to me recently has been the whole idea of, you know, outfit repeating or piece of clothing repeating being the worst thing you can do when, you know, people being shamed or like feeling as though they have to like buy a massive haul of clothes off Shein for like, I don't know, £20, completely ignoring how overworked and underpaid somebody has to be on the other side of the world to create these garments for you to buy them so cheaply. You know, just I think out of the urge and kind of peer pressure necessity to wear something new every single day on camera. You know, also I think the fact that, you know, social media is not real life. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Social media is not real life. Why would I say something so controversial yet so brave? But thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, comment down below if you would be inspired to try a Nightcore look and what you would wear. You know, if some of these things have inspired you. Do you wear sweater vests, or do you think they are an abomination against fashion? It's fine, I won't take it personally. You can listen to my podcast, Bustles and Broadswords, all about women and swords throughout history. And you can also read my webcomic, Girls' School of Knighthood, which is all about girls being student knights in a, well, all about girls being student knights with lots of swashbuckling, adventure, and romance. Stay safe, sword lovers, and see you in another video.